podcast excellence since 2005. This is the King of Podcasts Radio Network, kingofpodcasts.com.
Wrestling's not off to a great start. I mean, when the fans start fighting with each other, and that's a better storyline than we're getting on TV.
Woo! Hey, this is the Nature Boy Ric Flair, and believe it or not, whether you like it or don't like it, learn to love it, because you have to listen to Wrestling is Real. It is the best thing going today. Woo!
The worldwide leader of podcasting excellence, the King of Podcasts Radio Network proudly presents The Wrestling is Real podcast, because wrestling needs us.
You know, some episodes just get a little bit easier just to go ahead and just let the fans just kind of like fight with themselves and just comment on it. It's embarrassing to see some of the back and forth that some of the fans are doing out here. Last week on the program, I went along with a new, well, actually, I might have said it on the post show of TNA Genesis, which you can catch right now, kingofpodcasts.com, on the YouTube channel as well, at King of Podcasts. Now, I used two words, and this is targeted to a number of vocal wrestling podcasters, media types, journalists, and live content creators, streamers. Okay. I have been around this space for 12 years amongst all of you. And I've never seen it so toxic in my life. It's been one thing for social media to have a little bit of back and forth. And of course, message boards and people kind of talking back at each other. And it's pretty bad that we're seeing some of the wrestlers also get involved in this, because the gossip is being stirred up by the fans. And the level of vitriol and anger. Okay. No one wants to go and call to the floor. But people are doing this, okay, because there's a narcissistic element out there of juvenile, delusional people. The keyboard warriors that are on this site, that are online, or they have their own places to go ahead and use their bully pulpit to bully people, to attack people on a regular basis. Look, I'm not here to be the father, like, oh, get off my lawn kind of stuff. No, I'm just saying, I don't understand where the fans are getting so upset and how fans are easily triggered. No one is enjoying wrestling anymore. And I'll say it like this. Sure, I can have my issues with wrestling and how, I've been watching shows the last few weeks. Put it like this. The TNA Genesis show was pretty good. Pretty happy with the storylines, what they decided to go and do. Concerned about how NXT is going to be infiltrated and involved once again with a new partnership, but we talked about that on Sunday night. And then I look at what Raw was this week. Leading up to Saturday night's main event, they gave us one segment. We're going to lead the build-up 1 week before, roughly. And the Royal Rumble, not much really planning for that either. It's just kind of like on the fly. And we're back to the house show loop again. We're back to the house show loop. It feels just like that again. And some of the matches we're getting, they really don't go anywhere. And yet, the ratings tell all. And when you start seeing their broadcast partners, whom they're in bed with, Netflix, maybe things are all hunky-dory right now. Now, we're only a couple weeks into the relationship. But, of course, Netflix is trying to move along with what they're doing in some of their moves. We're going to talk a little bit about that. But when I look at what's going on and I see the constant chatter, see, it's one thing for people just to kind of comment and crap on the product. That's fine, one of the mill. But there are some people out here that want to personally attack people on a regular basis, attack the wrestlers. By the way, behind their profile on X, behind their profile on Instagram, behind their profile on Twitch, or behind their podcast on YouTube. And they're willing to go ahead and do that. Because they figured, well, nobody's ever going to come find me. Oh, a wrestler, I can talk shit about them? Oh, they're not going to beat me up. They're not going to do anything to me. You guys are playing with fire when you do that. Because of the amount of people that are here that don't feel any accountability or responsibility for what they say. And the problem is, because you have a platform, you're encouraging other fans to do the same. Now, it's still a vocal minority at best. But remember, if the Netflix audience that's trying to be adopting the wrestling show, Monday Night Raw, and seeing, oh, it's in the top 10 of Netflix, do you think anybody gives a shit about if it's number 1 in the world or number 2 or whatever? On Netflix, I don't think anybody really gives a shit about the fact of what number it is if it's ranked, or if that really means anything. For Netflix, it's just like their streaming service. There's your top 10 shows. They can make that shit up if they want. Because for them, it's not an algorithm. They set what's on the homepage. They set it there. Of course, Monday Night Raw needs to be there because they need to be able to get that show up in front of people and have them watch it. And for those that are watching worldwide, they're finally getting a chance to watch the show live, as it is. So we look at the latest results now for wrestling in terms of Raw and their ratings, because we always need to go and take a look at that. I'm going to awful announcing. So we know that the debut of Netflix, Raw on Netflix, was 5.9 million viewers. It's dropped 37%. 3.7 million global viewers. Global viewers. But of course, everyone has their spin. Oh, it's so much better than Dynamite. It's 4 times the level of Dynamite, whatever it is, right? No one wants to go into the granular detail. It's the noise versus the signal. The signal I'm going to give you. According to Netflix data, fourth most watched program on their weekly viewership chart. And that was the same as the January 6th debut. Now, they have their dividing total hours viewed method, shows runtime, and the viewership dropped to 3.7 million viewers. This is just, it's a calculation. It's not the actual number. I don't think anybody wants to know what the actual number is. Now you could say, oh, well, there was a head-to-head NFL wildcard round game. It was competing. You could see some of that. That was the first episode. And then this week we had the college football playoff national championship game. But again, we're getting global numbers. I don't think there's anything from the global audience that's going to take away from whatever it was. Okay. But I imagine that big chunk, that 37% that dropped off, most likely, maybe I have some few international viewers that are eroding off of there because they had the initial curious interest and dropped right off. And then the other ones are the domestic audience that they chose to watch the national championship game in college football or something else. Now, awful announcing mentions the fact that they said that the week viewer will see a larger drop before potentially rebounding. So this week they had the the college football playoff national championship game this week, which is going to hurt the ratings for that. And last week was the wild card game. Again, we're talking about ratings some week ago, and we already had a drop week 1 to week 2. It will drop again. And awful announcing makes the point that as for additional data regarding Raw's performance on Netflix, including domestic viewership, that's going to be up to the Pro Wrestling Giant or the streamer to provide. The show's not being tracked by Nielsen. But even with the viewership having dipped, it's clear that Raw has remained fourth in Netflix's ratings, with all indications being that the partnership with this new platform has gone off to a strong start. Well, Netflix has been vocal about it. They had their quarterly earnings call. They did get a significant amount of viewers. They did get an increase. Ted Sarandos was on the Netflix fourth quarter 2024 earnings call, and he told his shareholders, we're not going to comment anything about specifically anything like the UFC, but yes, the WWE is off to a great start. Talking about the 5 million viewers, about twice the audience that Monday Night Raw is getting on linear television. And he could say that to the shareholders because they're not going to hold them up to the fire about that. In the US, our viewing was that as big as the Monday Night Raw viewing has been in 5 years. We're super thrilled about how that's going and how it's going to come out. Again, it's not to be overly repetitive, but we're not going to be mindful of the bottom line. And it's really important that those economics do work and that the big league sports, full season economics are very hard to make work. For us, we want to be able to bring value to the sport like we have to date with the WWE, certainly, but we have like with the NFL as well, where we basically able to bring a big audience, a young audience, a more global audience than linear television, but I want it has to be reflected in the deal as well. And they are picking up sports as they go along. Now, they've had a couple of live events with the NFL Christmas Day games, the Jake Paul, Mike Tyson fight. And those are the things is why Netflix subscriptions went up and why their stock is up 10% right now. They've also picked up the rights to the FIFA Women's World Cup in 2027. And they're doing all this where they're still building up and picking up certain events, but not anything to the level of what WWE is doing on a weekly basis and how it's going to work out. I don't know. I don't know what to think about it and how it's going to work out, if it's going to. But we got to look like this. Regardless, numbers are not performing well. It's not. And you can go ahead and keep saying that it is or whatever. Go right ahead. I don't think we can go ahead and say that as much as we want. We can't. So let's go and get into some of the things that did happen so far that we can talk about. Now, we can go ahead and dissect both Raw and Dynamite this week as to what they're doing. So people want to go ahead and make issues about some of the stars they're using on television, right? Oh, the older stars. So for the AEW folks, the people that want to go and complain about AEW, why is Jeff Jarrett? Why is Jeff Jarrett getting a prominent spot right now? Why is he facing MJF? And why is he in a prominent storyline about trying to get, kind of like what Sting was doing last year, trying to win getting his last ride? And the whole idea of Jeff Jarrett trying to become a world heavyweight champion one more time. We got that. So the younger audience don't give a shit about Jeff Jarrett. Fine. Let me turn things back around to you. Are we going to say anything about Rey Mysterio and Kofi Kingston? The fact they've been in the company 20 plus years. Listen, Rey Mysterio have been wrestling, I forget how many years now, but since the early to mid 90s, I've seen him on my TV since 1996. It's going to be 30 years coming up. I mean, he's a bit younger than Jeff Jarrett, but he's been on television just as long as Jeff Jarrett. I mean, Jeff Jarrett, from what I remember, yeah, he was kind of prominent starting in the early 90s as well. And then going into WCW, but like that's the whole thing. We look here and it's like, you're talking about, a bunch of guys that have been around for a long time and they've had their, let's get them into the match and go ahead and get them going. But people are going to say, oh, they can still go. Oh, because Jeff Jarrett, you have an animus about what he was and how he was in TNA. Fine, have that. But everybody's got to have their own issues about that. Now, aside from the fact that Jey Uso confronted Gunther and they're going to have a match now because Gunther's going to defend the World Heavyweight title against Jey Uso, Saturday Night's Main Event feels like Battle of the Belts. It does. So we know that the Saturday Night's Main Event coming up this week will have a title match. Right? I'm not going to cover it like I did last time. We're going to make a big deal about it. I'm not. I don't feel like there's anything that's going to warrant me to say I need to go and cover Saturday Night's Main Event because it's going to be such a big deal. I don't think so. Just another show. We just had one not too long ago, and now we're going to be back into it again because it's like, well, let's just talk about it. And so far, the card that we have for Saturday Night's Main Event coming up, we'll have 4 matches that are already scheduled, along with Gunther and Jey Uso, Rhea Ripley and Nia Jax for the Women's World Title, which they set that up a little bit. Braun Strowman and Jacob Fatu for the Intercontinental Title. Ha! I just said it like that. Give me sport. They actually put down. You have Braun Strowman versus Jacob Fatu in a singles match. Braun Breaker will take on Sheamus for the Intercontinental Title. And Braun Breaker has been off television. He's been out of sight, out of mind for a while. And we'll get the contract signing for Cody Rhodes and Kevin Owens for Royal Rumble. That's what we got. Okay. That's set up for San Antonio this weekend. I don't know what I'll do with it, if I'm going to actually cover it or not, but that's what they're going to have. So it feels like Battle of the Belts. I don't expect any title changes at all. None. Let me just make that perfectly clear. There will not be one title change at all. I would be hard pressed if they decided to go and do that before Royal Rumble. Put it like that too. And then we get quite a bit of Sami Zayn, who addresses the WWE Universe, right? And I honestly thought when Kevin Owens' music hit, I thought, oh, are we going to get these guys again? I mean, we've only faced each other about 5 or 6 times that they've been on WWE television in the first place. Going back to NXT, remember? Like that first time they did that, where Sami Zayn got powerbombed off the apron. Yeah, that looked great the first time. How many more times are we going to have these two at each other, doing things to each other? And basically that Owens is going to be dealing with making sure that Zayn wins the Royal Rumble match. However it's going to happen. He thinks that Zayn will walk out as the champion. And that he has Sami Zayn's back. And if Sami Zayn needs him, he knows he'll be there. I'm not sure what that's going to be all about, but Sami Zayn has to get something. I don't know what he has over this company, but this guy gets airtime. He gets to go and be in storylines. He's not winning any other belts, but, he was IC champion multiple times. And now he's here, and they keep him somewhere in the main event for whatever reason. I don't see the appeal. I mean, Sami Zayn's somewhat over, but still over. What is he doing right now? What's his purpose? And Sami Zayn goes on with this whole can't do it attitude thing. All right. Like when I have to go and hear him talk and go through things where he's talking about what he's looking to go and do, his aspirations for the Royal Rumble and where it is, it's the part that I can't really stand a lot at all. It's just not good. So I'm going to play back what he said.
Spent all my time helping other people, and that maybe it was time I helped myself. And it really got me thinking, actually. I started thinking, what do I want? And when I started thinking about that, man, that opened up a whole bunch of thoughts. Because I started thinking about me, 14-year-old me. I started thinking about the millions of people all around the world that dream of ever becoming pro wrestlers. and the thousands that actually get to live their dream. And
by the way, no one is cheering this. Listen to the silence, the almost you hear the air conditioning running there in Dallas as he's going on with this. Because he's talking about the fact that, okay, since we've seen him in the Bloodline storyline, he's always helping others, helping out Roman Reigns, helping out, trying to help out Alpha Academy to go after Chad Gable, whatever. It's always the help out thing. Help out Jey Uso. It's always that. And he gets himself involved in everything. So now he's going to be selfish for the Royal Rumble. Let's continue.
Become pro wrestlers. And the very small group that are actually lucky enough to call themselves WWE superstars. And then there's the smallest group of all, the hardest one to crack into of all, and I'm talking about the upper echelon, the top tier of WWE. I'm talking 5 or 6 or 7 guys, and that is where I am now. And I firmly believe in my heart that I am every bit as good as everybody else in that group. And that group of guys, they're all in this year's Royal Rumble. And the only difference that I think between me and them, and I'm talking about Roman Reigns, I'm talking about Drew McIntyre, CM Punk, Seth Rollins, the only difference between them and me is that they have a world championship to their name.
The thing is, he wants to be the everyman, and that's exactly what the fandom likes about him. He's the everyman. He's one of them. He looks like one of them. Might be a little bit better shape, has wrestling acumen. Obviously, he knows how to wrestle, but he looks, look at him. He got the scruffy beard. The clothes are always kind of like nothing's flashy or special. Very just simple and plain. He could be in the crowd. I don't think anybody would even notice him. He would blend right in. And so his storyline right here, this particular part of the storyline is, because I don't have a belt. I'm not a world champion like these other guys that have won the Royal Rumble. Tells you something. They've run through the gamut of all the stars they have to go into the Royal Rumble that are going to be possible winners. And they've been around this area for over a decade or more. Most of them. Think of who has been up at that very echelon that he's talking about for a long time. Let me just go back and quickly make the point of, look who you have at the Royal Rumble right now. Let's talk about the folks he's talking about right now that are up there that are former world champions. John Cena, CM Punk, Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins. Cena's 20 plus years, right? 2005. CM Punk also 2005 coming into NXT, right? Or ECW, excuse me. Roman Reigns. You could go back to 2012 or so. Maybe even a little bit farther back because he was already in the system at Florida Championship Wrestling. Seth Rollins. Again, also a good almost 15 years now in the space. Drew McIntyre, 20 plus years, working his way, from Florida Championship Wrestling as well. Those are the 5 or 6 he's talking about right there. That's the 5 he's talking about right there. Do we want to talk about anywhere else? Oh, this will be Rey Mysterio. There we go. Rey Mysterio's also there. Got it. And by the way, besides the Royal Rumble matches, we only have the 100 match that's left up there. That's the ladder match. Nothing else has been booked for the Royal Rumble in a week and a half. I want to make that clear too. We don't have the other matches added. I'm just noticing that. Now, back to this here. Back to Sami Zayn and his deal like, I deserve to be the champion. I deserve to win the Royal Rumble. Let us continue.
And I don't. And I've said this before and I'll say it again. I've had a great life, okay? I've had a great career. I don't feel like I need the World Championship to complete me. You guys have supported me throughout the years.
What a congenial crowd response.
Your support through the years has meant more to me than any World Championship could ever mean. So no, I don't need the world championship. But damn it, I want it! Because 14-year-old me wants it, and he's still here. He's still with me. He sets foot in this ring with me every single time I come out here. So I don't need the world championship, but I want it. So I am going to take it.
Okay, well, he delivered the words fine. My point is the message. It's a bit empty. But that resonates with this fandom out here that they want the Sami Zayns to be the ones like, oh, let's get him over. He's such a big deal. He's so great. That's it. We've seen him on television for years. Under a mask for the most part. And then when he comes into this company, Sami Zayn's in and was a different guy before. I mean, as soon as he was talking about, I don't need something. I've had a good career. Before he got into that part, normally he would have said, well, I'm the only one that hasn't had a title, the world title. 4 years ago, he would have said it was conspiracy theory. Remember when he could have said it was a conspiracy theory? He would have had the documentary filmmakers along with him, all that shit. Remember how wonderful a character it was? Now, okay, let's compare. Yes, that was under Vince's tutelage. But Sami Zayn still got a WrestleMania match. I mean, he wasn't a champion right there. Well, he was an IC champion at one point, but then he lost it, remember? But he was much more interesting. Much more fleshed out character. Actually had a look. Actually had merch. What about now? This out here, green shirt. He's got his hair all pinned up and I don't need it. I want it. And he cracks his voice. And it's such a polite crowd. Oh, well, we got to cheer for him because he's our boy. Because we don't, the fandom's going to get pissed off at us. They don't want to see us on TV. We're going to get canceled. And he got time right there, and he's going along. And then we got the Kevin Owens stuff. But we had to wait a good 3-4 minutes for Sami Zayn to get his point across. It's just like the other Royal Rumble participants from last week. Took 20 minutes just to say, oh, we got 4 guys that are going to be in. We already knew you were going to be in. I don't think we had to wait for you to declare. You were just going to be in anyway. But yet we go to this and all right, moving along. Let's continue here. Now, all these backstage interview things, right? Here's Sheamus. Here's Ludwig Kaiser. Ludwig Kaiser, still not in a match, not been featured in anything. Oh, but Pete Dunne gets in there. Oh, no. Let's go back again. Nia Jax and Bayley. We're back to that feud again. This is also another one that's been going on for a long time. Only difference is, okay, Roxanne Perez is in the audience and her and Bayley have an issue with each other. And Nia Jax wins the match after all that. And then because Nia Jax is going to have a title match, I didn't even think about if I even remember there was going to be a title match between those two. But yes, Rhea Ripley comes out and confronts Nia Jax. What's Rhea Ripley doing out there with Nia Jax? It doesn't make any sense. Nia Jax should be confronting Rhea Ripley because Nia Jax is going to be the one that faces Rhea Ripley for that title. We're going to go the other way backwards. But again, Nia Jax and Bayley, they've been at each other for a long time. We're going to keep that up. Now, as we talk about Penta and Pete Dunne, listen. So Penta is back out there for a second week, and Pete Dunne is basically used for a glorified squash match. I mean, still, Penta was selling like crazy. Yes, we don't see it that much. Somebody said that on X. I agree with that. You're not going to be able to screw up Penta. But are they willing to go ahead and pull the trigger on Penta to become a main event star? Like, are you going to see Penta become World Heavyweight Champion? or Universal Champion. I mean, you could say, oh, they might give him an IC title, sure. Or maybe they're keeping him all set up because they're going to expect Rey Fenix eventually to get off of injury, get off of Tony Khan's contract, and move over. And they'll get the brothers instead. But for those that keep talking about, oh, look at all these people that they're not getting their releases granted. Okay. Ricky Starks. Or Britt Baker. Or Miro. Or Malachi Black. All right. Okay, for a couple of the stars, we could talk about the fact that, oh, well, Miro and Malachi Black, they're going to get a chance to get renewed. And they're going to get treated better, more respectfully upon their return. So, like, Rusev will not be treated like he was before in the Love Triangle and Rusev Day, where he's kind of like a joke, but then he's getting over with the crowd with the Rusev Day thing. And Malachi Black, he's not going to go ahead and pick a fight. Okay? But I want proof of which stars that weren't at the very top of the echelon. As if Sami Zayn said, right? Not one of those 5 or 6 guys at the top. Of those two right there alone, do you expect that Triple H is going to just push them up to the main event? Do you think Triple H is going to put them up at that high level? We can talk about some of the stars they've had that have come in, right? Ethan Page, okay, they put him in NXT. No main roster for him. Andrade, do we even see him anymore? I don't even remember where he's been. But he came over, right? And what happened to him? And now we got Penta. Penta's off to a good start. I mean, you can't lose with him. The guy is... I mean, he's got the merch. You can build merch off of him. You gave him a nice entrance. And his charisma, his work rate, what he's able to do in the ring and what he's able to go ahead and do in general, awesome. But I mean, they've had a couple of years with, let's say, Io Sky and Kairi Sane and Shinsuke Nakamura and Santos Escobar and like all these other international stars, Piper Niven, Lyra Valkyria, all these international stars that might not be the American sensations, right? They're from other areas. Ludwig Kaiser. I mean, who are the stars that have gotten over? Gunther is a great example of somebody that is over. That would be a bit of that international star that Vince McMahon would have not necessarily been over about. And for Gunther's credit, Gunther was brought up to that main roster and respected for him, not so much for Imperium. Like, that was just part of the group they had brought into NXT as part of it. But look how quickly Imperium fizzled out. Because they were just kind of like in the backdrop. And then Gunther, he was already in shape by the got to the main roster. And he's kept himself in great shape. And he works great. His promos? You know, there was a reason why Ludwig Kaiser would be doing the talking for him. But now Gunther's doing his own talking. To his detriment. But he is champion. But notice, we don't see him much. We haven't seen him in a match yet. Nothing in ring yet. Cutting a promo on Netflix, no. And he's just kind of been off in the distance. The question is, okay, those stars right here. Now let's talk about the other ones we just mentioned. Ricky Starks. And what do you do with him that's going to be different than what NWA did with him or what AEW did with him? Like, before the stuff with CM Punk, Ricky Starks was being pretty well. I don't know what happened behind the scenes, but obviously if he got under Tony Khan's shit list, then yeah, I guess he's not going to do anything. Regardless of how good of a star he is. I don't know. But obviously he pissed people off. And, you know, if you're in with management, well, they're not just, I mean, they could just fire, but Tony Khan, I realize, he's not the kind of person that takes releases. He doesn't do that kind of stuff. If he has you under contract, he'll just hold on to you. And he's happy to keep you held out. But don't make no mistake. Don't think that WWE is going to just take these folks right in and they're going to be automatic sensations overnight. Penta is larger than life character. Okay? Anywhere he has gone, he has made an impact. Mexico, Lucha Underground, Impact Wrestling. He has made an impact. AEW absolutely made an impact. That's just Penta. That guy's he's going to do good anywhere. Shit, Billy Corgan could take that guy and they can take off and do something big with him too. Everybody can. That guy's an excellent wrestler. He's a great wrestler, great charismatic. Put him in a Spanish market, that guy will soar. And it's not just Rey Fenix. Rey Fenix alone also as a standout star. And for the longest time, we didn't have Rey and Penta together. It's only in the last 5 years or so that we started seeing them together, Lucha Brothers. But now, it was always Penta first. And it's different variations. The next one, Jordynne Grace. Jordynne Grace, it's the way that Jade Cargill was going to get her push. Because, first of all, you bring Jade Cargill into the mix, listen, it would be a different... the thing is, they are making mistakes. They did make mistakes. Maybe not so much of a mistake, but when you put her and Bianca Belair together, you're taking away two individual stars that could be doing something more. With Jade Cargill, there's also the parameter of like, well, she was still a bit green in the ring. And AEW, I still will say to this day, they did a great job of booking her. She was $1 million. I still love how they treated her and how they put her out there in AEW. I thought she was a great character. But so far, I'm not a fan of her being a face. I want her to turn heel, and I wanted her to turn heel on Bianca Belair. Maybe that was the plan. But I don't know if they were going to execute it right away, but they didn't. But then you pair those two together, and it's like, man, Bianca Belair, you're going to put her in her tag team for what? There was a point where she was kind of like played off with Street Profits and all, and like, no, I don't like this. Like, give me back Bianca Belair back in singles action. What does he do? What's she doing here? I want her back into the title picture. Don't do this. But they put her in the tag team title picture, whatever. Okay, fine. And they let them lose the belts and win them back. I don't like that either. But Jade Cargill, they've kind of missed on, and unfortunately she got hurt. But Jordynne Grace, when she comes in, we want to get a little bit of a chance to have her featured, because she was featured in the Royal Rumble last year. She was featured in the featured match with Roxanne Perez. But right now, I mean, you can't put Jordynne Grace right now into NXT. If you were thinking of doing that, what, put her up against Stephanie Vaquer and Gilia, who they're all over about? And by the way, yeah, NXT did get 777,000 viewers, but yeah, because they have Bayley on. And, you know, they announced somebody else from the main roster coming onto the show. They're still doing that. NXT on its own will still get 600,000 viewers. That's just how it is. So NXT, they need to have a main roster star somewhat featured on a regular basis, kind of just in rotation, just to get them involved and be part of things. But Jordynne Grace, you could put her into wherever you want. I mean, right away, I could see her going up against Tiffany Stratton or Rhea Ripley. Make no mistake. If Jordynne Grace is already finished with the company, her contract's up, and there's no issue where there's any kind of time in between where she can be anywhere else, I hope she's in the Women's Royal Rumble. I hope she is a surprise entrant. I would love to see her back again. She won't be TNA World Heavyweight Champion or Knockouts Champion, but the thing is, she'll still be in there and joining the company and put her in right away. Jordynne Grace has an amazing look. Works great in the ring. Like, there's no doubt about it. She's one of the best wrestlers that are not in those two companies. She's one of the best stars that TNA had. One of the best knockouts they ever had. Especially in the last, 5-7 years? Been great. Like, she stands up there with the other knockouts that are out there. Like, seriously, she's done great work. Multiple time champion. You can't mess with her either. You can't mess her up either. You shouldn't be able to mess her up. But then again, well, I'll tell you like this. When I think of how Jordan Grace and what she reminds me of, Camille's pretty much like that. Now, Camille being the enforcer for Mercedes Moné, yeah, I wasn't necessarily all happy about it, but what I do like the fact was that she was eventually going to turn on Mercedes Moné, and Camille was going to go ahead and stand out. That was going to happen. This is the way they put her in, and they incorporated her, but she was featured in matches, she was featured in a lot of different things, so that's fine. And Mercedes Moné was going to go ahead and kind of be nasty to her, and they were going to break off, and that's what was going to happen to make Camille babyface. That would have been great. And she could still be babyface down the line once she gets back from injury. But I think that probably would have worked. And it's unfortunate we don't have her around to be featured in matches either. But there's a thing where all across the board, I mean, we know that Tony Khan's got a load of talent, but the inconsistency of some of the stars that he has that do not get featured as much. It's when when we got something for you, we're going to bring you on board. Or we'll let you go ahead and work some other shows. But that's pretty much it. Because when I think about the women's roster, there's certain stars they have and they can kind of use. So here we go, like Chris Statlander, Willow Nightingale. We're going to take a step back, right? I think Sky Blue's still injured. I'm not sure if she is or not. But now we got Julia Hart back in the mix. Harley Cameron's right now in the mix. Mariah May is a champion. You got Toni Storm back. Mercedes Moné is out there. And, Britt Baker's taking a backseat. But the thing was, there's a whole lot being said about her. And I'm like, wow, what is all this animosity about? Man, Britt Baker, they're running through the coals. And then the latest thing talking about getting her to have to go ahead and confront allegations of her cheating on Adam Cole. What is it about people that they're getting so upset to her about? Man, it's incredible how much this stuff is going on. I'm like, what a shame that I have to hear about this. So first off, Britt Baker has to respond to the claim. So there were comments on Conan's Keep It at 100 podcast that Baker and Cole's relationship ended because she cheated on him. So Wrestler's podcast. And she says, quote, I understand we as performers are expected to have thick skin through opinions and lies we read about ourselves, but spreading lies about my personal life is just low, weird, and something I won't tolerate. I've never cheated on anyone in my life. Hashtag tell your source. And by the way, there was another thing that Conan said about Kenny Omega, that he should just go ahead and jump to another company and get out of AEW altogether. But Kenny Omega is still under contract. But yet, it might be a misstep that's being said on there. I mean, Conan, I don't think he normally would do something like that. But when comments are made and nobody's going to give him the context, producer Joe, why aren't you going and correcting that on the record, man? Why don't you make sure you get that information right for Conan? Come on, producers. I do this for a living. Step it up. If you need to get real-time information to your hosts to make sure they don't fall flat on their face with misinformation because they don't know accurately what's going on, they're not going to go look it up, but you're supposed to. You're the producer. Go do that. Do your job. Come on, Joe. Just saying. Now, going back into the part where I'm kind of like working down Raw, we'll work on Dynamite in a second, just to make my point here, and how to incorporate the fans and how they're getting all upset about it. Logan Paul has a video, CM Punk, he addresses the Royal Rumble, and what he's going to be doing, whatever. He was already talking before, wants to go and attack Hulk Hogan, whatever. Total house show match with Pure Fusion Collective and Damage Control in a match. Don't know who thought that was a good idea to put that out there, but hey, fans like it. The toxic wrestling fandom. Oh, we need them to have a chance to go and work. The thing is, all right, when there are certain stars we'd like to go and see out there and working, yeah, I still want them to have storylines. I still want them to have something to do. You know what I mean? I'm not the fan of how I see certain stars that are kind of like off television for a while, so they should just have a match just to have a match. No, I don't want that either. I want them in storylines. I want them working on something. I want them on something that'll be on TV for them for the foreseeable future. Seth Rollins, Drew McIntyre to wrap up the main event. A match we've seen over and over, but we get Sami Zayn hitting Seth Rollins with a haluva kick. And Rollins and Zayn confront each other at the end of the match, and that's it. Got it. But everybody's talking about the fact that, we don't want to see Jeff Jarrett out there. Okay. But look at all the older stars we have, are the stars that have been up at the very top for a long time. And they're still there. Drew McIntyre's been back since 2018, 2019, since he came back to the company. Seth Rollins has been up on top ever since he came in 2012. From 2012, 2014, whatever it is, when the Shield came up. He's always been towards the top anyway. And Sami Zayn's been around with Kevin Owens, for also years on end. 2015, 2016? It's the same people on TV over and over. But yet, we're not going to hear anything from the crowd about this. Because then we have these little matches where, we get certain people that are still going to get a chance on TV. Pete Dunne's still out there. Ludwig Kaiser, he's still out there. They're giving him something to do. Right. And then Dynamite, they have the deal right now with Omega and Ospreay up against the Don Callis family. That's their setup now. And then they're going to have a match set up for Grand Slam Australia. Hurt Syndicate. By the way, we got a world tag team title match. We got a title change. How often do we get title matches on TV anymore? SmackDown or Raw? Do we? I mean, we might get the Intercontinental title match, women's Intercontinental title match, or a women's tag team match, or an IC title match. Do we ever get the world titles? You ever get the world tag team titles up on the line? How often does that happen? Hasn't happened in a while, right? I remember seeing sometimes where you would see before a pay-per-view, they would have a title match on before, but have we had that lately? Not really. I can't think of one. Can you? Haven't seen that in a while. So Jeff Jarrett's calling out Moxley, but Claudio Castagnoli's going to get in the way, the buffer, and they'll face each other next week. I'm fine with Jeff Jarrett. Listen, he's just an older guy. He can still wrestle. He's still got good promo skills. I mean, he's still a throwback to the 80s and 90s that we remember. That guy hasn't he's gotten a little bit slower in his work, but he's still the same damn Jeff Jarrett. I'm not necessarily big about him being a face. I prefer him as a heel, but that's okay. Swerve Strickland, Arrow Fox. Okay, so these guys, once again, they got an animosity with them. But while this match is going on, we know we have Ricochet. And Ricochet and Swerve Strickland, that's a storyline we're continuing with. Fine. I know, I said the same thing where it goes on. Here's the same comparison with where Bayley and Nia Jax are facing each other, and Roxanne Perez is in the crowd, and there's some muddling, right? So Ricochet, the same thing here. But there's a storyline that's continuing right now. Adam Page makes quick work, and then Christopher Daniels comes out, and they had the whole deal to set up where they had a match with each other, a real bloody match that would be the ending for Christopher Daniels in his career. People are kind of getting themselves into Harley Cameron, who has not won any matches, but we see her a lot on TV, and she's got a lot of charisma, and, quite interesting. Julia Hart, Jamie Hayter, finally back on television. We haven't seen them both in a while. We know that Julia Hart and the House of Black is kind of just changing things up. So, they're kind of reworking the original gimmick with Buddy and Brody, and we'll figure out what they're going to do with it. And we get Cope and Pac, and they have the match, but everything goes and gets set up to where we're going to get the Death Riders coming out and attacking Cope. I don't like the main event storyline. I don't like it, but they decide to go this route, they're going to see it through. I don't know if it's just where I wish Jon Moxley wasn't wrestling. I think that's part of it. I think if Jon Moxley was just more like not involved in the actual work and like just leaving it with everybody else, and it was somebody else that was champion, but Moxley's just like the mastermind. I think I would be okay with Death Riders if there was actually a mastermind, something that was just like calculated, methodical, cold, and directing all these people to do what they're doing. But Death Riders, I don't know what it's supposed to be. They're not in any get up. They're just a ragtag bunch. And they attack people and beat people down. That's it. And it feels like an NWO kind of feel to the end of every show on there. I'm not getting into that either. Like, we need to identify, is Cope going to be the one with anybody else that's going to be working with him that's going to take out the Death Riders? Like, who is the opponent? Like, that's the part. We're like NWO state. At least we knew Sting was the guy that could go and take down the NWO. Who is going to take down Death Riders? We got to establish that. I know they've had people that try to do it. Darby couldn't do it. Orange Cassidy couldn't do it. Okay, so now we got Cope. Somebody's going to come in here and actually be the people that will go ahead and neutralize the Death Riders and get them off TV. At this point, I just want somebody to know who's going to take care of them. Because Death Riders have been going on for a while. And see what they're going to do, but like, I don't know what they're going to do. I'm not sure what to think. Now, Grand Slam Australia, people are complaining about as well because it's going to be post-collision, right? I get it. So we're just waiting what they're going to do next with it. Like, what's the setup for Grand Slam Australia and what's going to be? We already know that it will take place on February 15th on TNT and Max. Women's World Title will be Mariah May and Toni Storm. Will Ospreay, Kenny Omega will take on Konosuke Takeshita and Kyle Fletcher. That's a match that's already set up. So there's been a lot of confusion on what's going to go on with Grand Slam Australia. I know there's been a lot of things that have been talked about it already. There's been a lot of controversy, a lot of criticism about this, first of all. Originally, they were going to be in a big outdoor stadium, Suncor Stadium, to host the event. By November, they said they were going to move the event because of low ticket sales. And now it's been moved to a 13,000-seat arena, the Brisbane Entertainment Centre. The belief was that Grand Slam Australia would be a pay-per-view event. I don't think they ever said anything about if it was going to be. But it was confirmed that it would be February 15th, a standalone TV episode that would air on the same night as a Collision episode. But right now, we know there's an issue where the event would be on TNT, but on February 15th, the NBA will have their All-Star coverage going on at that time. Looking on the NBA website for their list of events, they will have all day going on where at 8 o'clock, they will have all the challenges. The State Farm All-Star Saturday Night, that starts at 8 o'clock. 3 events will be featured: the Kia Skills Challenge, the 3-point contest, and the AT&T Slam Dunk Contest. I'm guessing that'll finish up around 11 o'clock, a little bit after. But yeah, that means Grand Slam Australia will run after the NBA coverage. But that Saturday night NBA coverage, the All-Star coverage, is a pretty big deal. And they're running stuff on TNT and True TV, so like they're all set to go. There should be an audience for that. Last year's State Farm All-Star Saturday Night, okay, the Saturday night coverage, by the way, there was a 3-point challenge, among other things that were going on. It did pull 5.4 million viewers on television. That was during the 10 o'clock to 10:15 Eastern time for the 3-point challenge. Okay, there was that. And then when they put it up on Bleacher Report, okay, overnight numbers, unique viewers that watched on TNT, True TV, and Bleacher Report Sports on Max, the ratings were up from the previous year, 54%, and they had 10 million unique viewers. Last year, NBA All-Star Saturday Night was the most watched in 4 years. That was last year's event. So for them, the fact that Grand Slam Australia is going to be featured on television after the NBA, not a horrible thing for them. I'm just giving you the reason why. So they said they got a couple matches already set up. Looks pretty interesting. Harley Kimmer most likely will take on Mercedes Moné for the TBS title. And so like we got all that going on. Okay, fine. But everybody's all upset about it. And then the rest of it when it comes to Dynamite, okay. That's what we got this week. This is the fodder that we have where, okay, we want to go and judge about the storylines and the releases and what we got. Yeah, people can go and complain about it. Fine. But then let's go back to what people are saying about all this. Okay? What is the discussion going on out there? One thing that's not being discussed by folks after the fourth quarter earnings call by Netflix, Netflix is raising their prices. So they got a bump in subscribers. I think it was 17 million extra. That's not counting what WWE did unless they wanted to kind of claim that people decided to subscribe to Netflix because of WWE, right? But yeah, prices are going up. Ad-supported tier will be $8.99 a month coming up soon. And the premium tier, no ads, no nothing, commercial free, will be $26.99. Will be $24.99 a month. Ad-supported tier will soon cost $7.99 a month. Remember, so now your investment in Raw, you're spending an extra $1 on it. You're spending almost as much as that's basically the Peacock price for Raw as opposed to the pay-per-views. Do you like that idea? So we've had comments from Netflix, praising WWE right now. Here's something that's going on right now. We're going to hear Dr. Chris Featherstone from Sportskeeda. He actually put out some information about the latest of the partnership about AEW and Warner Brothers Discovery. So he says, I'm informed that ratings are indeed a factor that goes into evaluating programming decisions. It's increasingly irrelevant considering the nature of media today where fans are engaged across linear, digital streaming, and social platforms. That being said, Warner Brothers Discovery has, quote, a successful more than 5-year relationship with AEW and look forward to continue collaborating for many years to come, end quote. So for anybody that thinks that AEW is going to go downhill, that there's some kind of issues, well, the company's staying behind them. There you go. So a lot of comments being made out there on X. Alfred Canoa, who writes for Forbes, says Tony Khan is the best in the world when it comes to alienating top talent and silver plattering them to WWE. Britt Baker will be next. Tony Khan's doghouse is to top stars, what Twitter Spaces is to incels, a dark purgatory that they get banished to when they're upset. AW Defender talked about this was an NWO ending on Dynamite tonight. If you weren't around to watch weekly, you have no clue how often a show ended that way. That repetition was used to get the same exact heel heat that Death Riders are getting. Yeah, I still don't like it either. I didn't like it so much when the NWO kept getting it. It was just after a while, it was not much. The match has been already confirmed. Jeff Jarrett will take on Claudio Castagnoli, and if he wins, he will get a title shot against Jon Moxley and the AEW World title. But then we also look at the fact that we might see that Jeff Jarrett might get that title shot at Grand Slam Australia. And the thought process might be that Moxley will take on Cope at Revolution. So anyway, there's not much else I'm going to say. I don't know. I just got into a rant today. And I'm just kind of like working off of the fact that there are so many people that are just so upset and caught up and so much crap that's going on. I do want to play a little bit of something here. I got to make this point as well. Anti-Market Pro Wrestling writes, Britt Baker is another example of the AEW's cult need for a punching bag. They're putting Ricky Starks and Ray Phoenix on hold for now. So let's make Britt Baker look like the most toxic person ever and put the cherry on top. Let's make her a cheating whore too. Y'all are fucking pathetic. And then the stereotypes that are out there also getting put out into place. Wrestle Cringe actually pushed this out. A large part of AEW fan base are WWE fans who had enough of the WWE BS before AEW as launched. Some of them were. I will say that. That's why we care about people like Shelton, Benjamin, Brody Lee, and Mercedes. We've always wanted what's best for them. Then somebody responds back and says, such cap, LOL. AEW fans are mainly hardcore wrestling fans who watch New Japan, Ring of Honor, Lucha Underground, which is why y'all care about quality matches. WWE fans never left WWE for another form of wrestling. We just didn't watch and came back when it got good again. LOL. Now, one last thing I got to talk about, which is going to be the biggest thing that's going to be brought up, that is the indicative of what we have as the toxic wrestling fandom at full fledged. There was a Twitter space that was happening. I forget, this is a couple days ago. So I'm not going to go through the names. I'm just going to play a little bit of what was going on and the kind of vitriol that this fandom has with each other. Because this is just like a cancel culture kind of thing. Because the person that's hosting this Twitter space is getting canceled right now. But like, I don't know who wants to get involved in this kind of stuff, but this is the level of the juvenile delusional that I keep talking about. Now we actually have a clip that sounds exactly like what it is.
That's it. You have no discernible talent or ability whatsoever.
Articles that people click on.
You have no sources whatsoever to speak of. You're sitting there peddling stuff saying, rumors say, sources, like you're fucking Mean Gene Okerlund in the 90s.
Sean, I am not a reporter. I don't have sources. I don't claim to have sources.
You sat there and claimed that I demanded you turn over your sources.
You said this in messages.
The tweet's public.
The came from.
The tweet is public.
Yes, it's public. And future tweets will be public as well. And if I'm incorrect, you're dumb,
man. You are
you can ratio me.
I am baffled at how fucking stupid you are. I almost can't believe it.
Okay, so there's one guy we're hearing, but the other one, we already know who the other person is. The person that's, bashing back, yes, you know which publication he is, you know who it is. They already said his first name. They're the people that trigger and gaslight. They're narcissists. They think their shit doesn't smell. They think they're bigger and better than everybody else. And then we have the people that don't know how to handle when somebody is getting gaslit or getting projected on. And all this mental gymnastics bullshit. That's the toxic wrestling fandom in a nutshell. This happens across the board. The juvenile, delusional element that is this toxic wrestling fandom, that is them to a T. Tell me I'm wrong. Dave Meltzer chimed in also because we've been getting attacked a lot this week. I'll put this out here. So he was asked a question. Why are so many fans fixated on the demise of AEW? It's a bigger talking point than what is happening on WWE, which most are probably fans of who speak negatively about AEW. And Dave Meltzer writes, for 5 years, the echo chamber kept saying AEW is losing money and going out of business. They can't move on from being wrong. And admittedly, they have fake experts who are also wrong for 5 years who can't admit it. So they take solace in this battle against accepting reality. Now the new game is just wait 3 years. And I want to take one last voice of reason before we wrap things up that I think it just says very well. Garrett Kidney, who I see out there, and he speaks quite a bit, and he's quite prominent when it comes to, he talks about various things for wrestling, hosts the TNA History Podcast. I love what he said here on X. He says that it really feels like we've completely lost the ability to be normal and talk about wrestling without either being hyperbolic or being dragged, kicking and screaming into somebody's culture war. Absolutely correct. Thank you for that, Garrett. I do appreciate that. Very well said. That's the show tonight. So we'll see what happens on Saturday night's main event. Of course, we'll do Royal Rumble, and we'll do that next week. We'll lead up to that for the following show. See how it all works out. Come back for another Wrestling is Real podcast because wrestling needs us.